It's lovely to see you, Clark, and always a pleasure to interview you.
Well,
You were
that's
kind
very
enough
kind.
to feature in our annual a couple of years ago.
I remember that. Yes.
Chillfest.
Yeah, I've got a copy of that somewhere. Absolutely.
Oh, brilliant. We really missed Chillfest this year and all the other festivals.
Yeah. Well, didn't we all? I mean,
Yeah.
it's been what it's been. I mean, we did. I think you might have seen. We did a show in Berlin about 2 weeks ago, and it was so odd to be doing it, knowing that we were practically the only live event in Berlin that night.
Oh.
So it's an odd one.
I want to say congratulations as well. #2 in the Heritage charts.
Yeah, that's
Fantastic.
good.
And it's
It
great
is.
news for viewers because it's a chart like the top 40 we used to love. And for those that don't know, it's been set up by United DJs. So it's featuring Mike Reed and David Hamilton. And it's basically features new songs from retro artists who have been performing all the way through but haven't been getting airplay. So
It's a lovely idea, and it makes you realize who continues to make and release music. I mean, there's a lot I didn't know on the chart, and so it makes you aware of who's out there and who's doing what. And yeah, I mean, New Day Ahead. We'll see if it gets to #1. I mean, #2's good. I'm happy with #2. So, and we've known Mike Reed many years. He's a friend of ours and has always supported the band.
How did it feel, Clark, to be performing on the new Top of the Pops? That was then and this is now. Did it feel completely different this time round?
Only in as much as there's not an audience, as there was in Top of the Pops. But I mean, Mike Reed just is the same as he ever was. You know, he's an older, like all of us, I imagine, slightly wiser version, and he sounds the same. And the set was actually fantastic. It was very Top of the Pops-esque. The thing that was the weirdest for me was miming again, because I haven't mimed, I guess, since, well, I guess you mime in a video, of course, but in your mind you say to yourself, I'm making a video, so I've got to mime. Everything else is live vocal. So like with a big chunk of an era in Top of the Pops when it was all mimed, that's what this was like. And I actually found that in a way harder than singing live now. I would have said the opposite when I was younger, but just because I was a fish out of water, I wasn't used to that again. But it was great, lovely people, and I think it's going to be a really cool show.
Oh, it's something we've thought could happen for a few years. So it's amazing to see it coming into fruition.
Absolutely. Well, you do wonder, don't you? I mean, I remember when we walked onto the set and you just think, why isn't Top of the Pops still aired? And I think one of the reasons is I said this to Mike Reed, it's very much dependent on he and his colleagues hosting it, because and Mike said a very interesting point. Again, Mike Reed, not Mike Cecil, said some very interesting points as well during that conversation. But Mike said, whoever presents it has to have a deep relationship with the music, and we know that Mike is, one of the great encyclopedias of modern music, and so he's. But there were others as well. David Jensen, Peter Powell.
Yeah.
And you'd want them to be presenting a new Top of the Pops of music pop shows.
Where novelty songs gone? It's a bit more serious.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, Lee, that in a way, yes, in a way, no. And the reason I say that is that I've probably said this to you before, so excuse me if I bang on about the same subject. But there were many more socially oriented songs in the 80s, 70s, and 60s than exist today. And that's not to say there aren't people who are making socially oriented commentary. There are, about very specific subjects. But I think that music's actually become shallower in general. I think there's far more songs that are just about relationships or about sex, and you know what, that's fine. It's all, rock and roll's always been like that, but it's kind of boring if that's 90% or 99% of what's being produced. Whereas when we were younger, any artist who emerged in the 80s is a child of the 70s and the 60s. So we grew up listening to those great artists, whether it's the Beatles, the Kinks, the Who, Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye, the Isley Brothers, and they taught us how to write, and they taught us what to write about, and often they write about socially relevant subjects.
That's why I think your album Wide Awake is a breath of fresh air, really, because with Spirit of Love and all those songs about those feelings that have been lost somehow in the charts, as you say, it's sort of some of it's very not very deep and meaningful. It's all sort of about spending and what you can do with money and status. But it's going back to those good old-fashioned sort of feelings and sentiments that we seem to have lost, I think, over the past sort of decade in songs.
I think you're absolutely right, Sue, and I don't know what the way back is, but actually, the music business has got worse because it doesn't encourage and support artists who have something to say about what's happening to the planet. And in that sense, they've lost a lot of ground. In the 80s, look, think back on it. You two are experts on this, way more than I am. But to have an anti-war song like I Don't Want to Be a Hero, that was common. I remember when I wrote I Don't Want to Be a Hero, I didn't think, oh, I've written an anti-war song, that'll show them. No, it's just that's what you wrote about because you cared about it. But there were loads of songs on that subject, and it was and other socially relevant subjects. But like you said, Lee, we don't remember the 80s as being some kind of heavy dirge of a music scene. We remember it as being also very fun because it had the balance of both.
Big mix. Going back to your album, I couldn't believe when we first started listening to it how many potential hit singles there are in it. There's so many that we love, aren't there, Sue? Mistakes, obviously, Spirit of Love, New Day Ahead. I mean, that's got such a catchy feel to it and positive messages too.
And on my old piano as well, Clark.
Oh, nice one. That's a very poignant ending because actually Mike pointed this out when we were making the album. It kind of actually is what it's all about. At the end of the day, you go to your chosen instrument and you write because it's a way for you to get something out of your system, really, and then communicate it with the people who want to listen to your music, and it kind of all goes back to that.
It was such a brilliant concept, the whole thing. I mean, we loved the song, but to invite your fans at a time when everyone was feeling really low, to send what resonated with them as the Spirit of Love. It was just, the timing was fantastic. It really cheered everybody up. So thank you for giving everyone a chance for that.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Can I just say it was so poignant as well, Hiroshima, and when you were lighting all the candles.
Yes.
We thought.
Yeah, that was, what was interesting about that is that that whole sequence and that time in Japan, we really didn't know whether it was going to be of any use or anything. But me and Mike, before we went out to Japan, had this idea that maybe we should film us, especially doing Spirit of Love. And then I went on holiday with my wife around Japan, and she filmed me in these different locations, just thinking, who knows? We might need it one day. Not knowing that there was going to be a pandemic a year later and that we would have no way of making a video had we not gathered that footage. And the interesting thing is that it wasn't premeditated. It wasn't that I was thinking, I'm going to light a candle at that shrine just in case it looks good on the video. No, it was a beautiful experience and very moving experience. And it was just great that that it was captured for posterity and also the video.
That came across and fitted in so well with the whole theme, so really moving.
Thank you. The last scene in the scene at the end of me in front of the atomic dome. I think when I watched the final edit of the video through and I got to that, both me and Mike went, shit, that's actually quite. That's poignant, and that's what we wanted to speak because the song's supposed to be that.
A lot of the entertainment industry has been so badly impacted. It's a worry because that's the way of expressing themselves, and that's their way of making money, and that's all been lost at the moment. So we can only hope for that to improve for 2021, and hope that there's more concerts that you did, you know, recently, Clark, where you can socially distance and still provide that entertainment.
How did you find that, Clark? Was that strange?
It was strange in as much as we were in a building about the size of the Tate Modern. It actually was a former power station. With about 250 people socially distanced. I mean, 250 people in a place that probably holds about 3,000 is pretty extreme. But that's what the local authorities would permit. And so we were in this cavernous space. I mean, the sound was all over the place. If you sang a word, it took 6 seconds for the word to dissipate, which is longer than ever we would have in a studio with reverb. And so we couldn't really hear ourselves, and everyone was masked up. Everyone was told to stay seated. And bless them, those lovely people in Germany, they couldn't help at one point but get up and start dancing about. And actually, it was quite riotous by the end of it. The song that always gets people at a Johnny Hates Jazz gig, I mean, of course, there are certain songs, you know, Turn Back the Clock is a big one, obviously, is a song called Lighthouse from Magnetized. We always do that before the final song, Shafted Dreams. And it just brings the house down. It's amazing. We just think to ourselves, but hardly anyone knows this song, but it still seems to have that effect. So some songs are just great for live, and some, are only suited to the recording run. It's really interesting.
Is in that festival, were the audience allowed to sing? Because we know there's restrictions in certain places where you can't sing.
They did sing, and they kept their masks on, which was quite amazing. And you would have thought it would be quite muffled. But no, they did well. They did well. It was fun, but we certainly came off thinking that was bizarre.
I bet. I suppose when it comes down to it, ideally, we do want to all join together as an audience and enjoy the music. But if it came down to seeing an artist or not seeing them, then you obviously would go with those restrictions. It will impact a little on the atmosphere, but I think for the sake of the industry that needs to get back on their feet, I think that's something that is worth, making the effort for.
I do think so. I think for us, this is the thing that musicians are faced with, the decision about whether they want to travel. Because obviously there are many times when musicians are offered things and they just don't feel it's safe enough because they've got young families or whatever it is. And for us with the Green Tech Festival in Berlin, we had to overcome that in ourselves. I have to say, Rita Ora was going to do it originally, and she backed out for health concerns. So we actually filled in for Rita Ora, which is a totally bizarre thought. I don't think you think about Johnny Hates Jazz and go, oh yeah, they're like Rita Ora.
You've had an affiliation with the Green Tech Awards, haven't you, for a while? You had an award in 2008, didn't you, Clark?
Yeah, the Green Tech Award I had was at the very first Green Tech Awards. At that time, they were called the Clean Tech Media Awards. And I was part of starting it, really. And this all came about because of an album I did on my own called Tomorrow, which is an environmentally oriented album. It was just wonderful for me to be part of the beginning of that. And now it's the most important environmental awards ceremony in Europe. And I'm really pleased it's grown way beyond me.
And I think in an artistic way, it's just as powerful, Clark, as the scientists in getting those messages across through music. I think that's just as powerful as the work the scientists are doing, to win over the hearts and minds of listeners.
Yeah,
it's a great point, Sue. A scientist came up to me at the end of the awards. We were all doing a photo shoot in front of the press, and he leaned over and he said, congratulations. I said, I'm not sure I deserve this really compared to what you were all doing. And he said, listen, we scientists can inspire and touch people's minds, but you as a musician can touch their hearts. And unless we work together, we're not going to solve this problem. I've never forgotten that. And it's absolutely true. We need both. So thank you for saying that. Yes, we do need music and the arts in general to to lend their weight of support to this very real battle we're facing.
Well, all power to you, Clark, and the new album, because that does that in spades, you know.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Just going back to the 80s, Clark, and your fantastic album.
Yeah. Turn Back the Clock.
Sold 4 million copies, Turn Back the Clock.
Yeah.
And I must say, you always looked very smartly turned out.
Yes. What happened? I did too many Zoom calls. That's the problem, isn't it?
Has image always been a big part of Johnny Hates Jazz, Clark? Because you all still look really smart nowadays.
Well, weirdly, in a way there wasn't an image, Sue, and the reason for that was that that's how I dressed. Anyone who knew me before Johnny Hates Jazz always knew that I would show up everywhere in a suit and tie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was like, it was, you know, I don't remember exactly, but I probably have a shower in a suit and tie if I had a choice. So for years I dressed like that, and I think that started with my days of working with a guy called Rusty Egan, who was in a band called Visage.
Yeah.
And I did performing at the Camden Palace, which eventually became Coco's. The Camden Palace was like the Blitz Club, really. It was like a bit of a scene for 80s music, and I was part of that. And then Johnny Hates Jazz came about, and I think really Mike and Calvin said, well, we should dress like Clark. And I said, yeah, all right, you know. So it just started from there, really. And then when me and Mike got back together, it was really a question of, well, you know, that's kind of how it worked for us. So let's continue.
You can't not mention all your hits like Shattered Dreams, I Don't Want to Be a Hero, Turn Back the Clock. Is it true that Kim Wilde was on backing vocals with Turn Back the Clock?
Absolutely. It's taken her a while to do the same for her father, isn't it? I mean, it was, yes, it is true. And Kim was on Rack Records just as we used to be. Our first label was Rack Records, and Kim continued on that label, which was really an affiliation that went back to our relationship to the owner of Rack Records and the founder, which was record producer Mickey Most. Mickey was Calvin's father. He was also Mike's employer because Mike was an engineer at Rack Studios, and he was my mentor because he signed me as a singer-songwriter to Rack Records 4 years before Johnny Hates Jazz came about. So we all knew Kim in different ways, and when Turn Back the Clock came along, I think the idea was mooted, and we asked her, and she was, you know, really wonderful. I mean, she's a big star and still is.
Yeah.
She said, yeah, all right. You know,
do you bump into her much performing now on the...
No, we don't. We bumped into her a couple of years ago. Or no, it must have been last year. God, it's amazing. It seems like so long ago when we were doing the festivals. I think it was last year. It was fantastic to see her. And we literally had not seen her for donkey's years.
Wow.
And so we had a really quick catch up, you know, and photographs and leaving knowing that we needed more time really to chat. You know, I think Kim's an astounding artist. I think she, you know, really should be remembered as one of the foremost artists of the 80s. Some of those records. I love in particular You Came.
Right, so it's called Simply the Best, and it's the quick fire round, Clark. So it's just favourites of the 80s. So first of all, favourite song of the 80s that's not Johnny Hates Jazz song?
Forbidden Colours, David Sylvian and Richie Sakamoto.
Oh, good one.
Favourite TV programme of your childhood?
Oh, because there were so many. I'd have to say, I'm sorry, I'm umming and erring. I guess it would be Monty Python. There would be Monty Python.
Yeah, Monty Python, classic.
Yeah. I have to say, I did love, as much as I love Top of the Pops, I love the Tube as well. I kind of miss the Tube as another style of show.
Most embarrassing or funny anecdote that still gets laughs around a dinner table?
Yeah, probably. Probably too many of them. That's the problem. You know what? I guess the one that people tend to, it probably won't sound very funny now, but I think the the one that people tend to laugh at is when we recorded Shattered Dreams. And again, Sue and Lee, you may know this story, so sorry if I'm repeating myself.
No.
When we recorded Shattered Dreams, our boss, Mickey Most, the most successful record producer of his time, so someone we respected, heard it and said, if that record is a hit, I will stand naked in Selfridge's front window for a day.
Did he follow through?
Didn't stand a chance. So weirdly, after that, Mickey let us go and let us, get another record deal, and we signed with Virgin Records. No bad feelings though. It was just okay. We'll see what happens. And so it was a big hit, of course. And we had to ask the question,
Yeah.
Mickey, we've called Selfridges. They've made space for you. And of course he never did it, and we would never because he was such a supporter of ours. It was just one of those oddities, when he said it, I just thought, what a great way of saying, instead of saying, no, I don't think it stands a chance, he actually made that whole overture. I loved
it. What a great story, Clark. Love that.
Right, next one. Favourite musician or band? So it could be someone who's influenced you. I know there's so many to choose from, but if you had to name one person or one band.
It is really difficult, which I bet everyone says who you interview. And it's really hard to pick one person. Let me say, can I give influence and band? Okay, yeah. In other words, if I was to mention someone who I really influenced me, it would probably be Stevie Wonder. But in terms of favorite band, that's slightly different. And I've got to say that my favorite band is probably Tears for Fears. And I can't say they influenced me because we were too close in time for that to happen. But I think that the sheer level of songwriting and production values and everything about them, and also what they sung about, that was socially important, I have great respect for, and I still love them very much.
Your philosophy of life, your best motto?
My best motto is the best is yet to come.
Brilliant.
That's my favorite.
Well, and that's great way to end the interview, Clark.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. Wonderful questions, both of you.
Thank you so much again.
Yeah, and you. Take care of yourselves.
Sorry, we're rooting for you to be #1 next week, Clark.
Oh, thank you. Yes, everyone call in and vote for this. There you go. Well, that's of course the album Wide Awake, but their heads on there. And isn't that awful that I had the album sitting beside me? I didn't mean to do that. I just
we love a shameless plug, Clark.
No, it's a shameful plug. Shameful. All right. I hope to see you both at festivals next year, eh?
Brilliant. Definitely. Yeah, we hope to.